Blog Talk Radio.
Readers Entertainment Radio presents Booklights with your host, author Lisa Kessler. Booklights, where we're shining a light on good books.
Hello, everyone. For all of our listeners in the U.S., I hope you had a great July 4th and a good holiday weekend. Welcome back, and I'm so glad you guys are here today because we're going to be talking thrillers with author Lori Roy. And if you haven't met her yet, I will read her bio here so you can get to know her. Lots of great thriller books, so you'll want to check out her website. I did put a link to it right there on Blog Talk so that you, if you're listening live or if you're listening later, you can click that and check out all of her fantastic edge of your seat reads. So Lori Roy is the author of 6 novels, including her newest, Lake County, which just came out June 1st. Her debut, Bent Road, was awarded the Edgar Allan Poe Award for Best First Novel by an American Author. She went on to receive the 2016 Edgar Allan Poe Award. This is Monday. My reading skills. Come on, guys. She won it for the best novel, making Lori the first woman to receive an Edgar Award for both Best First Novel and Best Novel. She is the third person to have done so, so that's awesome. Lori's critically acclaimed work has been named a New York Times Editor's Choice, twice named a New York Times Notable Crime Book, featured in People magazine as Book of the Week, and excerpted by Oprah magazine. Her work has been widely reviewed and has included numerous best of lists and summer reading lists. Lori lives with her family in West Central Florida. And again, be sure to check out her website because there are links to all those fabulous books right there. And you can also get connected. I think she had a newsletter as well. You can check that out. So without any further delay, are you there, Lori?
I am here. Hello.
Hey, hello. I know we're both sweltering here in Florida. Are you staying inside?
Most of the time, yes. It's now we have to find things to do inside, which is not how we like to spend our time here in Florida.
I know, right? The Sunshine State's trying to kill us with too much sunshine. Well, your new book, Lake County, just came out, and I am really intrigued. I have a lot of questions, but do you want to tell everybody what the inspiration was behind this book, why they should go out and grab it?
Well, Lake County, I like to call it boots on the ground suspense. And it is the story of a young woman, 18 years old, desperate to escape 1950s small-town life in Florida. And she plans on doing it by following her world-famous Aunt Jean all the way to a career in Hollywood. Now, Aunt Jean, as she's known in this small town, is known to the rest of the world as Marilyn Monroe. So Addie has this plan to follow Aunt Jean to this new life. And when this dream is threatened, Addie decides to tell a lie to try to protect it. And instead, she catapults her entire family into a night of terror. And the man she loves, she puts him on a collision course with the Tampa Mafia. So this book just kind of brought together all these things that I think are interesting. I love the history of the Tampa Mafia in the Tampa area back in the 50s. It brings the glamour of Marilyn Monroe. It brings suspense, which I love, all together and plops them down in a small town in 1950s Florida.
Well, that's something
the long
that...
and the short of it.
Yeah, well, that was something that I wanted to ask you about, is that from all your other thrillers, I didn't think aren't they all in current times? Is this your first, historical thriller?
I have written, I'm about split, 50-50. Some of my books are set in the past, but the thing that is unique about Lake County for me as a writer is that it features a couple of characters who are real people in history. And, of course, Marilyn Monroe is one. As she comes into the book, she is Marilyn Monroe, but I've given her this small town, something I wish that she would have had in real life, where she kind of escapes to this small town when the rigors of Hollywood and fame become too much for her. And she gets to be in a place, at least for a short time, where she is just Jean. She doesn't have the fame and whatnot dragging her down. There's also another real-life character which won't be as familiar to people, and that's Charlie Wall, who is kind of widely thought of as the sort of the grandfather of organized crime in Florida, particularly the Tampa area. So that makes Lake County different. I've had other books set in the past, but bringing those historical figures into the book, that's new for Lake County.
Yeah, well, and I wondered, too, one of my other questions was, why Marilyn? Did she have a connection to Florida, or did you what popped in your head that you were like, Marilyn is the one that we need? Was it just the time period, or?
Well, when I initially started thinking, Addie, my main character, the young woman who's turning 18, she was my first kind of character to come into the story. And I knew that she was going to have this famous aunt. But initially I was looking to fictionalize the character. I'd done a great deal of research on sort of more of the B-movie actresses of the era. I call them the scream actresses, the ones that were in like the space alien is carrying them off, or the monster,
right.
And they're screaming.
Yes.
And then we have here in St. Pete, for anyone who's been, they'll know that downtown we have these gorgeous murals on several of our buildings, and there are walking tours around these pieces of art that we're lucky enough to have here. And one of those is a 2-story tall version of Marilyn Monroe. And it's Marilyn in the actor's studio black turtleneck. It's the very strong, committed, determined Marilyn that is, memorialized on the side of that building. And I saw that, and that's what got me to thinking, what if it's Marilyn? And I'd never done that before, which left me a little bit uncertain about it. But I also felt if it was going to be Marilyn, it had to be for a very specific reason. Like, she had to have something to say, and she had to bring something to the book that no other character could. Because if it wasn't doing that, I feared that I'd be exploiting her.
Right.
And so I brought her onto the page, and right away she was like, heck yes, I've got something to say. And it was an odd experience. I don't really know how to articulate it without sounding a little bit crazy.
Writing is a little bit woo-woo. We pull things from the superconscious and it just downloads, so.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Not treating me as if I'm not a little bit crazy. But yeah, she immediately was comfortable on the page. She was very forthcoming, and she, in the end, she carries, some of the larger themes of the book. So it was a process, all of that, to say it was a process for it to end up being Marilyn.
That's cool. Well, what can you tell us about, I had no idea that there was a Tampa Mafia, but
oh, yeah.
What's that about?
So we have an area here, it's just on the other side of Tampa. It's called Ybor City. In fact, anybody out there, if you pop on my social media, I've been posting some pictures from Ybor City, because Ybor is where the mafia, organized crime, really grew up in this area, dating back, to pre-1920s. And it's been explored in other books. Ace Atkins has explored it. Dennis Lehane with a couple of his books, has explored the Tampa Mafia and others. And, of course, the things that you think of, like running liquor, for example, during Prohibition and all the other things that organized crime makes money off of. But one of the things a little unique to Florida, which is what I wanted to explore, was this game of Bolita. And starting, I suppose the 20s or 30s, that's when Charlie Wall came into existence. This game of Bolita, which is a very small, it would be like a nickel a bet. People would bet a number, and then once a week at the bars, restaurants, wherever around Florida, these games would be held, and they'd pull a ball out of a sack of 100 balls, and then whatever that number was, you would win if you bet that number. And it brought in millions of dollars for organized crime. And
wow.
it ended up leading to some kind of turf wars, I guess you'd call them. I'm not an expert on my organized crime lingo. But it led to a lot of bloodshed, the fight for control of Bolita, and that's what Charlie Wall was initially known for. So there's a lot of organized crime history in the area. For anybody interested in exploring it, Cigar City Mafia is another. Scott Dietschy, I believe is how you pronounce it, wrote that book. It really explores the history specifically in Ybor City, which was known for making cigars.
Oh, I see. Wow. I just had no idea. Were they part of, did they break off from the New York Mafia and come down to Florida?
Well, some of that went on because, of course, there was quite a bit in the Miami area, Meyer Lansky, if you're talking sort of about that era. And then Charlie Wall had the Tampa area until some other organized crime family came in and took it from him. And that's specifically kind of the Tampa family. So you had the Chicago family, the New York family,
wow.
Las Vegas. So we have a rich history, which is, I think, a very fair statement here in the Tampa area. And even on the St. Pete side, there are landmarks around. Al Capone supposedly owned some homes in the St. Pete area. So, yeah, there's a wealth of organized crime history for anyone who's interested in looking into it.
Yeah. And is this your first book that you have set in Florida, or are you from Florida? Is this, where you've grown up and you have all that history?
I was born and raised in the Midwest, and my debut, Bent Road, takes place in Kansas, which is where I was born and raised. But I've lived in Florida for 30 years, because nobody from Florida, nobody who lives in Florida is really from Florida. That's kind of I'm sure you've heard that joke.
Right.
So being here 30 years makes me kind of a native.
Right. Well, I was going to say 30 years here is probably longer than you lived in Kansas, right?
Oh, yeah. Far longer. far longer.
Well, do you have more?
The Disappearing, which is, I'm not sure which number book that is, but it takes place in northern Florida, and it was inspired by some of the events surrounding the Dozier School for Boys up there. For anyone, many Floridians especially are familiar with that history. And my next book is going to be set in Florida as well.
Oh, cool. Well, what are you working on? What is next?
What is next? I need to get my slick pitch put together because I haven't done that yet. But it takes place down along the Big Cypress Swamp, which is kind of on the very southern end of Florida, between Naples and Miami, for those a little familiar with Florida's geography. And it tells the story of a young woman who's had a real tragedy in her childhood that led to her father going to prison. And 20 years later, this tragedy is now the subject of the country's #1 rated true crime series. And it's exploring this time in her life via actors, and they're playing it out. And as she watches this unfold, this series is known for, when the final episode airs, it upends what everyone thought about a long settled crime. And she is fearful that when the final episode airs, her father, who is supposed to get out of prison shortly, will actually end up facing a death sentence.
Oh my gosh.
So that's not the slick pitch that I need to work up, but it kind of plays on this idea of, we see that all the time now, these series based on true crime.
Right.
And the people featured are people who are still living.
Mhm.
And I was intrigued by that. Like, what is it like to be that person who's the subject of something like that? And then taking it a step forward, making the series one that upends, think of any crime that we think we all know the guilty party. We think they're in prison. We think we know what happened. And then all that gets turned on its head when the final episode airs. So it's called The Final Episode.
Oh, very cool. When is that supposed to come out?
It is June of 2025.
Oh, nice.
And by then I'll have a slick pitch pulled together.
By then you'll have nice graphics and it'll all be ready.
Yeah.
Well, our listeners are primarily readers, and they're always interested in what was your writing journey. So did you always want to be a writer, or did it come to you later in life? And how did you go about getting your first book out into the world?
So I could say when I was very, very young, I had this idea of being a writer, but it was not, I had no idea what that meant. And my family was I come from a family of mathematicians, and I went to college and went into tax accounting right out of college, and I worked at that for several years. And then when my husband and I decided to move from the Midwest to Florida, I was fortunate enough to be in the position where I could stay home with my children. I had just one at the time. And I wanted to work on a career for myself with those years at home. So then when my children grew up and left home, I would have something. And now they've grown up and left home. I started kind of just slowly by myself, reading, books on writing and just reading good books, reading not so good books. And after, a few years of doing that, I made my way to my first writers conference. It's Writers in Paradise is a program here in St. Pete that was started by Dennis Lehane and Sterling Watson at Eckerd College. And it's still going on. That was I think it was 20 years ago when I went. And so I went to that a few times, and then Bent Road, which was my debut novel, it took me about 1.5 years to write it. It was the third book I had written. The first two, I can't even say I stuck them in a drawer. Well, I'm sorry, what's that?
Those were just practice. You were learning.
Yeah, I was going to say, people say they stuck them in a drawer. Mine have vanished from the face of the earth. I have no idea where they are. So, and then I just went, that was back when you still sent some query letters, and you were starting to email as well. Now everything's email. But I was just plucked out of a slush pile with virtually no resume as far as a writer went.
Wow.
There wasn't any. It's what you read about on all the sites that I know people go to looking for guidance. It was, I worked on writing a compelling query letter, and I worked on writing the best book I could. That had to come before anything.
For sure.
So yeah,
and it sounds like that one was meant to be, because you went on to it won an Edgar, and have you ever looked back?
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm still wondering, how am I going to ever write another one? I mean, every book is like starting over. So yeah, I mean, it's tough. It's tough work. There's parts that are more fun than others. It's always a lot of fun when you start to get to the end of a book.
For sure. Well, and there's always that feeling with a new book that you start. Every book is different, and some write really fast, and then other ones you stare at the screen going, "Why did I think I could write a book? What?"
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much every day. I tell people it's like having homework every day for the rest of your life.
Yeah. Somehow we signed up to write a term paper every day. What?
Yep. That's what it feels like.
Well, I wanted to ask you is, you usually write what you love to read, so I assume you love thrillers, but is there any other genre that you've been secretly wanting to write?
I have thought before about that when I sat down to write Bent Road, for example, I never thought that I was writing suspense or a thriller or a mystery. I was trying to write the book I wanted to read, because when people ask me what my advice is for writers, that's my favorite piece of advice. So I thought, what do I like to read? I like richly drawn characters. I like a setting that really I can immerse myself in. I like a plot that really makes the pages turn. And I thought of all those things, and that's what I tried to bring to the book. And then it was nominated for a crime fiction award, and I thought, okay, I guess I write crime fiction.
Dead bodies just kept piling up.
Yeah, but the thing that I like about it is it allows me to put the characters in that singular moment in their life that will most define them, because they are life and death circumstances.
Right.
So I think that's ultimately what keeps drawing me. Because that's not really true in life. Like, it's not like we get just one moment, but it is the big moments that define us.
Right. I like the stakes, to be very, very high. And I write paranormal books, so, the world could be ending if this doesn't happen. But
yeah.
I enjoy those kind of stakes, and I think it's because I don't want those in real life, right? You get to experience something that you hopefully never will in your real life, right?
Sure. Oh, absolutely.
We don't want a page-turner life.
No. No.
We want those pages going real slow.
Because we'd sit at a computer all day.
Right. Oh, my gosh. Well, when you were researching for Lake County, did it take you off in different directions that you weren't expecting? Like when you started researching for Charlie Walls and Marilyn, did it take the book in different directions, or are you like really stick to that plot? How does that work for you?
No, it's a pretty fluid process for the first draft. And I would say so my protagonist has a love interest. His name is Truett. And I gave Truett, he's kind of an entrepreneurial sort who's trying to provide for his mother, his father died when he was very young. So he starts a Bolita game. I was talking about that game that the organized crime had full control of. And he's running it in this small little county, Lake County. And I thought, if he's doing that, ultimately the mob boss has got to find out about it. And that means I've got to bring the mob boss into the book. I've got to bring gangsters in. I've got to write these types of figures. I've got to go into Ybor City and put Truett face to face with that. And I was a little uncertain about writing the mob boss. That's not something I'd done before.
Right.
And strangely, I was very comfortable with it.
Your inner mob boss came out.
Yeah, once I just kind of dove in, because I knew that that's where the showdown had to go. I couldn't have a story about organized crime without going into that world. So yeah, I felt very at ease as writing as a mob boss.
Were there any surprises in this book? Was there a twist or something that surprised even you?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, in the first draft, that's when you kind of want to let. I like to create my characters and give them. You want them to have their needs in life, their wants in life. And as you start to really get to know them, you start knowing how they will react in certain circumstances. And that leads to twists, because one person reacts one way and another a different way. And now once you get to the second draft and the third and the fourth and however many, that's when you got to start using the mechanics, those mechanical engineering kind of skills, not to diminish mechanical engineering for any that are out there. But then you have to start just thinking about how the parts and pieces come together, but I can't say what the twists were, because then I'll ruin the twists for the reader.
Right. Right. But just know, when you get to those twists, they surprise Lori as much as you.
Yeah, well, and that's the fun, right? Although everybody attacks their work differently, and I tell people, again, when I'm teaching or talking with writers, it's more about figuring out what works for you than deciding how you're going to do it. Like, it's not necessarily something you know until you experiment and you're like, this is just how it works.
Right.
Who knows?
Yeah, everyone's process is different, so.
Yeah.
Well, before we run out of time, I could talk to you all day, but we're running out of time. So when somebody gets really excited, they read Lake County and they're like, oh my gosh, and they want to binge other books, how can they get in touch with you? Because readers love to, talk to their favorite writers. Are you on social media, or is it a newsletter or website? How do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, they can find me any number of places, and I do love to hear from readers. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, occasionally on Twitter. I will check it, so if you reach out there, I'll eventually see it. I have a website, loriroy.com, and there is an email address there where you can email. So, yeah, pretty much anywhere you are, you type me in, Lori Roy author, and you'll find me.
Well, thanks so much for being here today. And everyone, go grab your copy of Lake County. It sounds fascinating, Marilyn and the mob and young lovers. So anyway, something for everyone in there. So go grab Lake County. And thanks again, Lori, for being here today. It was great chatting with you.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for joining us on Booklights. Be sure to connect with us at www.readersentertainment.com for articles, blogs, videos, and podcasts that matter to readers.